We all have a story to share, and wherever you find yourself, no matter the season or the reason, we need a village to navigate through life. Salon Sessions podcast is a series that uncovers the stories of real women to inspire, impact, and support one another. Please welcome your host, recording artist Gemma Kirby.
Thanks for pushing me down, 'cause this courage I found will make me rise stronger than a fallen soldier.
Welcome to the Salon Sessions podcast series. Today we're here with our special guest Sasha. I met Sasha a couple of years ago now, and we had similar journeys at the time. I was looking to have my first baby, and Sasha was trying for her third. But yeah, I'm going to pass over to Sasha now, and she can give us a bit of a brief background of her upbringing and where she's from and what she does, and then we're going to delve into our life after pregnancies.
Yeah. Well, hi, my name's Sasha. I met Gemma, as she said, just over 2 years ago now. We moved here with my family from Townsville, North Queensland. My husband and my two daughters. We moved from a crazy full-on life to small little Mullaney, where my husband started our first plumbing business. And yeah, life's just really gone from there.
Yeah, cool. What made you move to Mullaney?
We moved mainly because my parents moved to the Gold Coast.
Yep.
Dan's parents moved to Mullaney, where he grew up. And, yeah, we just really needed family around.
Yeah, wonderful. I think that seems to be a trend at the moment. I've had a few guests prior to you coming on, and moving closer to family when having children, especially for a woman, is really important. So it seems to definitely be something that we can all relate to. So as I said, when we first met, I was pregnant with my baby Hunter, and you were expecting as well.
Yeah.
Although your pregnancy journey looked different to mine. So can you tell us kind of how that looked?
So my pregnancy started off really well. Me and my husband started to try, and first ovulation cycle within 4 weeks, and I was pregnant. I was really unwell right from the start, but I put that down to just morning sickness, all day sickness, you know. Everything went well. I was very small, but I was also very sick. So I thought, you know, that was just because I was unwell. Got to the 21-week scan, and it was me and my husband in there, and everything looked beautiful, and we knew we had a little baby girl, which we found out at 16 weeks. And 21-week scan went in, everything looked really great. And just at the end, she said, I can't get some great pictures of the heart. Can you please come back tomorrow, being a Friday? And I had my car booked in for a service on the Friday. So I went down the coast, and it got delayed. So I had to cancel my appointment and push it back a week. So I went the following Thursday and for my scan, and I didn't take my husband with me because everything was perfect the week before.
Yeah.
And we sat down, I laid down, and she was doing the scan, and we were having a big chat, and then she just went quiet. And I remember thinking something was wrong, and I was just staring up at the picture on the wall, thinking to myself, everything's fine.
Yeah.
And she was really quiet. And then she said to me, have you been bleeding? And I said, no. And she said, have you been feeling any kicks? And I said, no. And then she picked the scanner up and put it down and held my hand and told me that there was no heartbeat left and that she'd passed away at 22 weeks. And that was obviously extremely difficult to hear. Being on my own as well.
Yeah, well, you don't plan.
No.
It was something.
And as I said, everything the week before was perfect. I mean, she did say that there was something. She couldn't get photos of the heart, but there was never anything to say something was wrong. So the lady at Queensland X-Ray, she was or X-Ray and Imaging, she was absolutely amazing. She sat there with me and held my hand and just talked to me. And then obviously I wanted my husband, and so she called No, she gave me my phone and I called Dan,
Yeah.
and he was just, I couldn't talk to him, of course. And then I've told him that I've lost the baby and that he needed to come to where I was. So he come and met me. I was meant to be going to work, so the x-ray lady called my work for me and told them that I wouldn't be in. And from there, it was a story of, well, what do we do now?
Yeah.
Because I'm 22 weeks and I had a real little baby inside me.
Yeah.
That wasn't, just a mass, like
No.
it was a baby.
Yeah.
So they referred me off to the hospital, and where I was told that I'd had to give birth to her.
Mm-hmm.
Being over 20 weeks, it's classed as a stillbirth.
Yeah.
So you actually have to be induced and have this baby. From there, I got sent down to the main hospital, where I was told that I had to wait 2 days. So I had to go home for 2 days and come back, and then they would induce me. But they had to give me some medication first, because obviously being only 22 weeks, your cervix is still so high, so
Yeah.
they needed to open it.
Yeah.
So I went home and my parents were there, and I had to pick my children up from school.
Yeah.
We took them to the showgrounds.
Yeah.
They were 7 and 8 at the time. And we had to tell them that Mummy was no longer pregnant,
Yeah.
and that they weren't going to be having their baby sister.
Mm-hmm.
The 8-year-old knew what was happening. The 7-year-old she was upset, but she was also like, oh, grandma's at home.
Yeah.
So, just completely really went over her head. So we went home. I spent 2 days at home, just pretty much in bed, not wanting to do anything. And then on the Saturday morning, we had to arrive at the hospital, at the maternity ward. We had to go up and knock on the door and tell them that we were there for the butterfly suites.
Yeah.
They call themselves the butterfly suites. A lady came out and met us and walked us through a different door, so we didn't have to go to maternity at all.
Yeah.
And they checked us into a room that looked just like a hotel room.
Yeah.
There was a beautiful bed. It was decorated beautifully. It was dark. There was a TV, and they literally checked us in and they left. And it was just me and my husband sitting there in this hotel room, pretty much being completely surreal.
Yeah.
What are we here for?
Absolutely.
And being a hospital, they then leave you from like 7:30 till 12:30 or something until someone comes and sees you. And I remember it just being so surreal of what we were there for.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so many women from even 6 weeks plan the lifetime of their child.
Yeah.
To then be told that you won't be able to keep planning for that life it must have been challenging. How do you think it was hard having the older two part of the journey, or do you think it made it easier?
I think I'm not too sure, because like I said, it kind of still went over their heads.
Yeah, they were little.
So they weren't really great. I think recovery-wise afterwards and mentally, it was really great having them involved.
Yeah.
Especially the older girl, because she was there. And even now, Olivia is their sister. You ask them, they both have 2 sisters.
Yeah.
And Olivia is just our perfect little girl.
Yeah. I mean, I'm super blessed. I also have the opportunity to teach Sasha's daughter singing in our community, and we do a lot of gratification at these singing lessons, and Olivia is a name that I hear all the time. It's not, her legacy is definitely carried on through her sisters, which is a truly amazing thing. And as a mum, you must be so proud.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, she is part of our family. We're a family of 5.
Yeah.
And that's what we are, and they honour her so much.
Yeah. So you're in this room and preparing to deliver Olivia. Obviously, that looked very different.
It did, yeah. Like I said, it was honestly like we were on holiday. We were laying there in bed watching a movie, and the doctor came in and told me that I was going to have a tablet, and that It's usually about 2 hours, and then they'll give me another tablet. So that happened. After the first tablet, the contractions started.
Wow.
It was quite quick.
Yep.
And then by the second, it was very, very intense. My second birth was a natural labour. And I remember, kind of every hour, progressing.
Yeah.
This was very quick, very intense.
Yeah.
And I guess the really difficult thing was when you have a baby, when you have a live baby, and, pregnancy, giving birth is one of the most horrendous things a woman will ever have to do.
Yeah, your body, what it goes through is incredible.
That's right. And how scared you are and how much pain you're in, but you've always got that thought of, I'm about to have a baby.
Yeah.
And at the end of all of this, I'm going to hold my baby and it's going to be so worth it.
Yeah.
And that's where I kept kind of having this prep talk to myself that everything was okay and that I'm going to have my baby after this. And then realizing that I'm not going to have my baby after this and that I'm going to be holding a child that's not living.
Yeah.
So it was really difficult.
To labour.
Yeah, it was really, really difficult to labour.
Yeah.
And it was completely different because when you have a natural birth, you don't have any drugs, or I didn't have gas or anything for my first one. And this one was different. They gave you morphine, they gave you endone, they gave you gas because nothing affected the baby. So I was completely just somewhere different that I'd never experienced before, going through the most horrible thing.
Yeah.
And it's just so surreal that even now I just can't believe that it's something that we went through. Having my husband there, he was ridiculously amazing.
Yeah.
Up until this point, he was very quiet. After we lost her, he didn't really say much at all. He was always there for me, but he didn't say much. But to see his emotions and to what he went through while I was labouring as well.
Yeah, well, it's kind of your thing to keep your family's emotions in check. And
yeah, that's right. And just to see his emotions was just another level as well. But once she was born, she was treated like a live baby.
Yeah.
They took her straight away. They cut the cord. They weighed her. They wrapped her up and they brought her to us.
Yeah.
And she sat with us for a while. And she was a little baby. She fit in my two hands.
Do you remember how much she weighed?
She was 350 grams, something like that. And yeah, she fit in my two hands. The only difference between her and a live baby was that she was almost transparent. She was see-through. You could see her organs inside. Yeah. And the more you held her, it was like she blood clotted.
Yeah.
So you could see the blood clotting in her body.
Yeah.
When that became really noticeable, they took her off us and they cleaned her up and they brought her back in... She was dressed in a beautiful white knitted outfit that someone had made and gave him to the hospital just for this purpose. She had a little beanie on. She was wrapped in a beautiful angel wrap. And she was in a bed that was cold. Yeah. So it was like a fridge bed. Yeah. And it was a bassinet. It was a beautiful white bassinet. So it wasn't like a hospital-looking thing at all. They wheeled her in and they put her next to our bed and we could pick her up as much as we wanted and we can put her back down. And when I found out that I was having to give birth to her, me and my husband said, we're going to give birth to her, we're going to give her, and that's it. We're not going to hold her. We're not going to be involved. But when you get this child, it is completely different. Yeah. This
can't prepare.
That was your baby.
Yeah.
And my husband's father instincts kicked in so much that whenever someone had her, he was by her side. Yeah. He was there. They took her out to do her handprints and her feet. And he just sat there and just like on the edge of the bed, he just wanted his little girl back. It was so beautiful. And it was just the most craziest thing. She stayed with us all night in our room, mainly in her bed. And then in the morning they came in and they asked if we were ready. There was no rush for us at all to give her back to them.
Yeah, wow.
Now being over the 20 weeks as well, we had to either have a funeral or get her cremated. So once we gave Olivia back to them, they put her where she could go and get cremated.
Yeah.
And then we packed our bag and we left.
Wow.
And we walked out of that hospital feeling completely empty.
Yeah.
They give you all of the tools. So they give you the counselling services. They give you everything that you could need to, rely on. They give you this beautiful teddy bear and her hands and feet and everything to remember, just as if she was going home with you. But it was the most difficult thing. And leaving without a baby when you've just been through labour is just, it's still, like I said, so surreal.
Yeah. I cannot even imagine the emotion you would have felt walking out of that hospital.
Yeah.
And did the girls come into hospital at all?
They didn't know.
No.
Like I said,
too little.
Now thinking about it, if I knew from the moment we had her she was still going to look okay to when we actually handed her over with the blood clots and everything. So by the time I thought maybe we should have had the girls here, I don't think it was a very nice sight for them to remember their
her
sister.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot nicer that they've just got her hands and feet.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. So you've been through all this journey and we're lucky that this podcast series is being dropped a little bit later because you have some other really amazing news, which I think is something that I'd like to touch on.
Yeah, so we've just found out that we are now 7 weeks pregnant again, almost 2 years after losing Olivia, which is something that I honestly thought I couldn't do again.
Yeah.
Like the thought of it and the thought of possibly losing another child is, and I know I just can't even think like that. I just know that it's a positive thing, and we are going to get this beautiful chance again.
Oh yeah.
I'm
absolutely
terrified, absolutely terrified. And I've told my doctor that I'm going to be in there every week for heartbeat checks.
Yeah.
And,
and that's something
scary.
that they will support?
Yes, she has been absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
So, so it's a bit exciting. And the girls are over the moon again.
Yeah.
And my husband. So hopefully this time we get our little boy and we're finished.
Yeah, cool. So amazing story. Thank you so much for sharing something that's so vulnerable and so real. It's just, it's incredible. So I really thank you for sharing it. I guess one thing that I'd really like to ask you about is strategies that you used or organizations or people or things that you did to help you cope, because this is massive. I couldn't even imagine. So if there's anyone out there that's listening to this podcast that has been through something similar, not knowing where to turn or just being unsure, what would your advice be?
As we touched on at the start of how important family is, really opening up to people and telling them how you're feeling. People don't expect you to be okay.
No.
And I really struggled with feeling that I needed to be okay for my family. But when people are there saying to you, let me help you, really let people help, open up, let them know how you're feeling. The other thing that I found is keeping busy. My husband is on the go all the time. So being really kind of having other children as well, you still have to be mum. You have to, life goes on, but still remembering that you are extremely fragile. Yeah. And just listening to yourself and talking about it. A lot of people, this conversation comes up and people go, oh, I'm sorry, like don't talk about it.
Yeah, it's a taboo item, isn't it? Like let's quickly breeze over it.
Talking about it, I have found for me was the best way to get me through it.
Yeah.
I can now sit here and talk about it without being a complete mess. And like you said, people need to know that you can talk about this and it's not the subject that you have to hide behind, because this is a real experience and it's a horrible experience. And
Yeah.
people need to know that you're not alone.
I think that's so important. I mean, even before I'd met you, I'd had 3 miscarriages, and I was so frightened to talk to people about it because it's just that thing that we don't talk about, which I feel is so wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you once again for talking and sharing your story.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, and I'll see you very soon. But yeah, thank you for coming on board.
Thank you for having me.